welcome back to The Great Journey,
A great
A
journey.
great journey.
a book club podcast where we delve into the world of Halo one installment at a time. We'll be covering the books, graphic novels, films, and of course the games, talking about them in a very informal and fun way. My name is James, and I'll be your host once again this evening. Say hello to my fellow co-hosts for this evening, Charlie, Rob, and Will. Jim and Tom were sent to investigate the loss of contact on planet Harvest. We hope to reconnect with them ASAP. Tonight is a special milestone for the podcast as we wrap up season 1 of The Great Journey.
A
A
great
great
journey.
journey.
I didn't expect to actually say that out loud again. Oh, we thoroughly explored the franchise's inception with all the material surrounding the Fall of Reach. We've covered the book written by Eric Nyland, as well as the comic and anime film based on the book. Following that, we watched the Remember Reach commercial campaign before playing the entirety of the Halo Reach video game. We explored the background workings of the AA collective known as the Assembly, and finally, we left off after sneaking a peek into Dr. Halsey's personal journal, confiscated before the destruction of the ONYX sword base. Today, we will finally wrap up the Reach material with the exploration of the data drop installments provided from Halo Waypoint. So it may be beneficial to describe what Halo Waypoint exactly is. Waypoint is an official online portal for everything Halo, including news updates, stats, lore, and other material. It was released in 2009 and curated by Bungie, 343 Industries, and now Halo Studios. It serves as the main resource for Halo players to follow their stats and keep up with the franchise news. Halo Waypoint also includes Waypoint Chronicles, which is a collection of short stories published by 343 beginning in 2022, which serve to offer a glimpse into other aspects of the Halo universe that may not be fitting for a feature-length novel or game. Tonight we'll cover the data drops released on Waypoint, although not included in the Chronicles short stories. It includes a collection of 6 classified documents recovered from Castle Base by ONYX Section 3 in 2553 after the events of the Halo Reach, and ultimately the Fall of Reach. They serve to tie in the events of the book to the game and hopefully clarify timeline discrepancies.
Woo!
So let's start this discussion off.
I'm hoping Robbie has his, awesome timeline skills chiseled down for this. I think Robbie's gonna blow some this timeline discrepancies apart.
I was gonna say I feel like that's very accurate for kind of what happens when we cross reference a lot of this media.
He's got the dates and times all just ready to go. Pow! Pow!
I on his wall at home he has in marker the timeline, kind of like a Criminal Minds situation
right above
going
my
on.
bed, so right before the lights turn off, I just see it.
You made it out of those glow in the dark stars, didn't you?
No, I'm picturing like the Charlie Day meme where
Yeah.
he's like smoking a
Yep.
cigarette. Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
Carol!
Carol!
There is no Carol.
It's not Carolyn there, Dana system. What is this? What's going on?
Slight deviation. So a little bit back on track. So again, Waypoint data drops is a collection of 6 classified documents, all of which are recovered from the Castle Base by Section 3 of the Office of Naval Intelligence in 2553, and then originally posted on Halo Waypoint. So we'll start out with data drop 1. This was taken from Halopedia as a synopsis. The first data drop is nothing more than an image of a blue grid overlaying a star field with a single section being identified by a large arrow. The image also possesses a white box containing text detailing the object within the indicated section. The text provides details of XF 063 or planet ONYX. And then data drop 2, we have a classified document between Vice Admiral Stanford of the UNSC Navy and Admiral Margaret Perengatsky, who's the commander-in-chief of the ONI, regarding Operation Bravado, sent on 7/18/2552. Stanford states his ship, the Leviathan, was damaged during the battle and will be sidelined in the upcoming months. He reveals that amid the victory of Sigma Octanus 4, the ship Iroquois picked up interesting data that the Covenant was transmitting from the planet's surface. Although unsure what it is, he states that it could be grouped with sites like ONYX, Meridian, and Arcadia, and the artifact Halsey is excavating on planet Reach. Thoughts on data drops 1 and or 2?
So the first one's just that grid, right? That shows Onyx.
That is true, yes.
I'm excited.
Keep-
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, you're probably gonna say what I was gonna say. Is just we keep getting these snippets of Onyx, so I'm more and more intrigued what that's all about. And I know we're gonna get to Ghost of Onyx at some point.
Yeah.
So
So Ghost of Onyx is the fourth book that Nyland wrote, and it's probably my favorite. So I'm excited for when we get to that one.
So you have some idea of what transpires, or what they may be referencing here, in these.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a super important planet, especially for like the Spartan 3 program.
Understood. This is one of those situations where, had we gone release order, we'd probably have more information on Onyx, but if we're trying to go more chronologically, we don't have that yet, I guess, and more so the way we're going about it. So
The message that the Iroquois picks up that they're mentioning at the end of the report, that was that message that the hunters were sending out from Côte d'Azur, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure on that.
yeah, so it's an interesting kind of look in the background, especially the leadership background of the UNSC and ONI, and their take of that. I know that like in the book, wasn't Chief and Keys were eventually like interviewed about that whole ordeal, whatever.
Yeah, they got mad at him because I think they nuke, or like, do they nuke Côte d'Azur as they leave?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
They weren't happy with that.
Well, they clearly know that something else, could have been there, or there was something more important there that before it got nuked, because they have now information with sites. They said like Onyx, Meridian, Arcadia, and they said quote, that thing Halsey's digging up on Reach, which now we know is actually Forerunner, some sort of vessel, right?
So the
Yeah.
upper brass of the fleet know about like an ancient alien species that isn't the Covenant.
Right. That's what I'm getting from this message straight up, is that ONI does know about Forerunner architecture, Forerunner artifacts.
I mean, they 100% do. But I mean, we already know throughout all this media that ONI, like probably any intelligence agency, has a lot more information that they just hold on to.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Cool. Any other thoughts?
What kind of name is Hieronymus?
Let's look it up.
It's got to be Greek. It's got to mean something in Greek.
It does seem very Greek.
Where's Tom when you need him?
Yeah. Hieronymus Bosch is a Dutch painter.
I'm not sure if I would have guessed Dutch.
Hieronymus, uh, is the Latin form of the ancient Greek name Hieronymus, which means with a sacred name. It corresponds to the English name given or the English given name Jerome, Hieronymus. So means a sacred name. Yeah,
More you know.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I was kind of hoping it'd be something more like uh like the name of like some traitor of the Greeks or something.
I know.
Yeah.
Something like that. Something where you got some backstory to it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. All right, data drop number 3. A response from Parangoski back to Stanford. He states that the Covenant's movement patterns are leading to a high probability that they will intersect with the Epsilon or Randy system within 5 months. She states that the time of Operation Red Flag is now. Additionally, she brings up Halsey and her work on the artifact on Reach. More importantly, she states that Halsey is poking into ONI secrets, likely looking for data collected at ONYX. She may be close to finding what the planet actually is. Her leash will be tightened and her free ride days are over. Dun dun dun. And then data drop 4. Stanford writes back to Parangoski. Returning from the Sigma Atenus conflict, he is concerned that Red Flag is being considered. To follow through would mean that they are at their last resort and require Reach to take the fall. He attaches the updated stratagem for Red Flag, capture a Tier 1 asset, and broker a ceasefire. The document reveals the human knowledge of 3 quote-unquote high prophets, whom reside in a mobile structure known as High Charity. Using Spartan 2s, they will seize a Covenant ship, make their way to the Covenant homeworld to fulfill this objective. However, in a shocking twist, it is revealed that Red Flag would require a considerable sacrifice to bait the Covenant into their trap, and the potential capture of a colony world that holds artifacts of non-Covenant origin. Stanford vehemently rejects the use of Reach as bait, the only exception being the Covenant already located it. So, data drop, well, we'll start with data drop 3.
Yeah, so it looks like they were gonna find Reach extremely soon, regardless of that probe that hooked up to the Iroquois.
Yeah, what'd she say? It was like 87% chance
Yeah,
that they're gonna find it.
within the
Something
next
like
5 months. Yeah,
Yeah, 87.2%.
it seems like they wanted to rein in Dr. Halsey's. You know, it seemed like Dr. Halsey was able to kind of do whatever she wants, and people are getting tired of that.
Yeah, Oni's probably like, yeah. Well, Oni doesn't want anyone knowing that they have secrets, let alone what those secrets are. And so, Halsey being the brilliant scientist she is, like, yeah, they definitely don't want her uncovering more than what Oni probably already suspects. She knows.
Right. They also bring up the ultra radical wing of the People's Occupation.
Yeah, what's that about?
Is that like a terrorist organization?
Looking it up, People's Occupation was an insurrectionist organization based on Reach that sought independence from the unified Earth government. Nothing really more out of that. Established in 2487.
Yeah, it looks like they're going.
So they sound like insurrectionists,
Yep.
but not tied to other insurrection, not tied to the big insurrectionist group that we originally were getting Spartans ready for.
So yeah, it looks like they're gonna go ahead with the red flag, even though it's just I keep on saying it. It sounds like such a dumb, like, doesn't make sense how they think it's gonna work. Kidnapping a prophet from the covenant and then suing for terms of peace. Doesn't make no sense.
I mean, if you're losing a war, you're gonna start grasping at everything, and so
Yeah.
the idea of capturing, I mean, think about it. Would America at least do a ceasefire temporarily if, like, the president were kidnapped or something similar? Most countries probably would at least pause for a bit, so at least buy you some time. But
Right. I see that.
my thinking is like, yes, there's three prophets. They're like, and we don't really know anything about the covenant or this system. It's all guesswork at this point. So we're
Right.
like, yeah, there's three prophets, but like, how do we know how? Like, is one in charge? Like Is it like
Well,
a majority vote between the 3? Like, there's no indication at this point in the lore, like, which one to kidnap or what to even do.
once again, we see this dichotomy of, what they're telling the Spartans in the book. In the book, they were like, we believe that there's two castes, like a warrior caste
Mhm.
and then a leadership caste. But clearly, ONI already has further information about these prophets. They know that there's three of them, and they know now about their home colony by Charity. So that's just another example of Oni keeping their secrets close to the chest, not telling the characters from the book. So
I
They talk.
assume kind of only in general, just like they know about the Forerunner artifacts. They know that the Covenant are seeking them out, but I assume that they don't know why the Covenant are seeking these out. Or it's like a kind of a fair statement.
Uh,
I think
you
that's
talking
totally
from
fair.
Oni's perspective or just everyone? Yeah, I don't think anyone knows, yeah, why the artifacts being like that the Covenant are looking for are like important to Covenant. I don't even think Halsey and folks know outside of, oh, this is great technology, like the true identity of that artifact, right? Like
Yeah,
up to this point, we don't know about Forerunners as in as a group other than with Cortana, knowledge that it does the language does not match anything Covenant based, right? So we know it's not grouped with them, so it must be something else, but no one knows like why, like anyone's looking for it. I do like Data Drop 4 calling out, again, back to the book, where when we first read it, the mission of the Spartans stealing a Covenant vessel, going and kidnapping a um, High Prophet, and then trying to get back, how spur of the moment that was, and it didn't make much sense to us. And I think this document, this data drop, like reveals a lot of like reasons or like other discussions behind the scene as to um, why they're doing that.
Yeah, I'm also surprised that they're talking about like sacrificing a planet to kind of like as bait.
Yeah.
to James' point about, you know, them, or I guess humanity, finding these Forerunner artifacts, and then, we're trying to understand why the Covenant are interested in it. It's interesting that the tactic that ONI is taking right now is more so not understanding the technology. It's like, how can we use this technology to bait the Covenant into a trap?
Hmm.
So instead of like researching more, maybe using Halsey, they're just using this technology as a trap to do this red flag operation with the Covenant. It's interesting. I don't necessarily agree with that tactic, but
Well, up until this point, too, it's always been on the defensive of the Covenant picking a location to basically destroy, right? Like, there has not been a battle that I recall where the UNSC went on the offense, right? So I think that's part of it is we need them to come to a place where we can have enough ships and buy enough time for this to kind of unfold. So they need to come to us because we can't go to them. Like we don't even know where to go, right? We have no idea where the Covenant home base is. We have no idea where they stage. We have no idea of any of that.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the reason why it's called out that we need to bait them to something, and it has to be worthy enough for them to actually send, you know, ships to, but also disguise a battle for this mission of Spartans buying time to get onto a Covenant ship and hijack it, and then somehow magically figure out how to pilot that ship back to the home base, and then steal a high profit. Um, with all that said, yeah.
It's like the first half of the movie is fantastic, and they just don't know how to wrap it up.
Right.
Basically.
Which I has anyone's I guess Will, since you're so anti red flag, um, since you see the red flags in Operation Red Flag, um, has your view changed at all on it,
I
given
think what you
this sort of angle?
I think what you brought up about they'd rather sacrifice one of these planets with Forerunner technology to do their red flag operation rather than just like doubling down and doing everything to learn more about this Forerunner technology. Just it would make if I was in charge, I'd be like, all right, let's try to just find out more about this Forerunner technology. Maybe that's the key to beating the Covenant instead of hijacking a ship that we've never hijacked before and finding their moving home planet because High Charity moves around. It's basically a massive ship. Boarding that, finding one of their leaders, kidnapping them, and then suing for peace. Um, like if I was in charge, I'd rather be like, okay, let's just try to learn more about the Forerunner technology. That's the key.
Yeah, I would add like 2 cents in there. I think one is a matter of time. If there's a high probability, again, 87.2% probability that within 5 months, they're gonna end up finding Reach and ultimately probably destroying it, because at this point, it's very hard for UNSC to defend any of the planets that a Covenant arsenal shows up to. It almost gives you the opportunity, because there is your sacrifice already, to where you can kind of start planning for this and get that emotion, while maybe like nothing's saying they're not still doing research and not working up to the last minute on, again, unlocking new technology through Forerunner tech, or even anything that they've confiscated from the Covenant. I willing to bet like there's departments still doing that, but this is kind of a, hey, also we should probably start thinking about doing this, because they're gonna find the Reach, and then when Reach falls, we know it's really easy for them to, again, start working their way through other inner colonies and ultimately gain to Earth.
Yeah, it's fair.
Plus,
I mean, yeah, we're desperate to do anything to change everything up. So
yeah. Plus, I want to know the dynamic. They like the way these data drops are talking about Halsey and her artifact, right? Like, is Halsey really letting other scientists in there, especially Oni, to like look at least this Forerunner um, vessel, and dive into their tech, or is she kind of like, oh, I'm the smartest person in the world, I'm just gonna do this, no one else can help, and if they try to help, it's gonna slow me down, kind of thing, right? Like, I wonder if there's some of that too. Like,
yeah,
how much tech does Oni have, Forerunner based, like, to their disposal, that doesn't have Halsey kind of trying to control?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting point. It's kind of like maybe they're just like stalemating against each other. Like they each have their own stuff, but they just don't want the other side to really take over and do something with it. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I guess this Operation Red Flag to me. I mean, just thinking about it, it just seems kind of so they send Halsey and the Spartans on this Operation Red Flag, and according to this conversation, it makes it sound like they're intending for it to be to lure the Covenant into Reach, and while they send the Spartans out, then they would go hijack one of them. Which kind of seems weird that they wouldn't tell Halsey and the Spartans and Keys like all that information. I know they think like Keys is like kind of this risky guy that maybe he would just go for it, but I think that's kind of weird that don't share that kind of information for kind of the last.
Right. I think they do. We're going to touch on that shortly here. Who they tell and who they don't tell.
Yeah. I will add too at the bottom of the second document of Data Drop 4, right? It answers some of the things too we talked, or I even just brought up in this conversation of like, oh, it's crazy that they're sending Spartans to go on a commerce ship. How are they going to pilot? How are they going to do anything? And literally in the prelim requests for that was sent to Halsey to prep for red flag, one they're requesting 20 or 30 Spartan 2s. So it's not just John and his fight team, or his fire team. It's 20 or 30 of the remaining Spartan, which is basically all of them, right? Like we have
Basically, yeah.
33-ish maybe, so like all of them.
That tracks with the book though. That's the same thing that happened in the book.
Yep. Yeah, we know. Like they're all on the one ship. They're all about to head to um, do their mission. But in here too was the call out for a Gen 3 AI construct, but extensively programmed with Covenant system intrusion software. So calling out, hey, we have to have an AI construct embedded in the Mark V armor to be able to, piggyback with the Spartans themselves and also, have the capabilities of actually hijacking a Covenant vessel and doing things of that sort. So it's kind of nice that the data pad, kind of adds that extra missing detail in there of like, okay, they're going on this mission, but how are they going to accomplish it? Oh, okay, that's where Cortana and things of that sort come into play.
True.
Yeah, we can move on to data drops 5 and 6 then. So we can talk about the points you want to bring up. So data drop 5. Stanforth once again messages Perengatsky. He states that he revealed Operation Red Flag to the Spartans and Halsey, but have still kept the emerging battle on Reach a secret. Although the operation came close to acquiring a Covenant ship, the Long Night of Solace, its eventual destruction means that they must still sucker the Covenant in deep enough to proceed. He attaches metrics provided by Cortana about the key assets to the operation, summarizes his thoughts on the findings, and officially greenlights Red Flag. Files included in the communication are as follows. File Cortana. Stanforth understands Perengatsky doesn't like Halsey, but the fact is Halsey is critical to the operation. Halsey was able to split her advanced AI Cortana into 2 programs in order to juggle the mission along with the Visegrad excavation findings. File of Jacob Keyes. Although there are other options for the commanding officer, Keyes is just plain fearless. He provided it was his loop maneuver. They will need that drive in this risky mission. In the file of Pillar of Autumn, a cruiser was in need for this operation, and this particular class of cruiser could withstand a beating due to its framework. Although slow, it can last longer than any other ship in the fleet. And finally, file for John 117. One of the 25 of the other Spartan 2 assets on this mission His combat accomplishments are extensive, active in 207 ground engagements, is almost unbelievable. He is quote unquote last resort material. So, I mean, that answers that too. 25 Spartan 2s are signed up to go on this mission. But thoughts on Data Drop 5?
So when George blew up the Long Night of Solace, they're kind of like screwing Operation Red Flag.
Yep.
Yep.
Well,
that was an interesting reveal.
no, because he blew it up, they have to do Red Flag, right? That was an opportunity for them to not have to actually go through with Red Flag if they were able to hijack the Long Night of Solace. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Well, part of Red Flag is the first step is commandeering a Covenant ship. If George didn't blow up the Long Night of Solace, that step would already be done. They would already have the Long Night of Solace, so it's like, okay, we don't have to go and commandeer a ship. We already have our own Covenant ship. That's what they're
Yeah,
getting at.
yeah. So because if we had our own government ship, we wouldn't have to do red flag. Because to my understanding, red flag is literally just to get the Covenant ship, right?
I think
Like, sorry, the sacrifice like portion of red flag is to bait the Covenant forces in close enough to where we can infiltrate and steal a Covenant vessel to then go back to go on to High Charity. And so, because again, the Long Solace was destroyed, that was like, in their eyes, the closest opportunity they had to steal a Covenant ship without having to actually bait them in and do a whole sacrificial colony. That was my takeaway from that.
Right. That's
what I'm
it.
seeing
It
is
was an
that.
interesting reveal.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Sorry. I was gonna say it's just an interesting reveal that yes, like you said, James. Red Flag. Obviously, part of it was to steal a ship, but had they taken the Long Night of Solace, then they wouldn't have to essentially entice the whole fleet to come to Reach. You know, they could have already
Mhm.
gotten on that ship, been on their way to High Charity, and instead been in like defensive mode around Reach. So it's an interesting look into the opposite side, you know, of the book, and more so this like commander view of the whole operation.
Yep.
What were you gonna say, Will?
I was just gonna say that, like, I was looking, yeah, like Operation Red Flag has like 4 phases. And the first phase is, uh, commandeering a ship.
Correct, but the commandeer ship to the eye, like to Oni and Keys, like or Stanford, like they have to get access, like be within the capabilities of getting a ship, and so that's where having a sacrificial lamb is kind of a necessity now, right? Because the second one, um, so the first one is disabling and stealing, capturing a Covenant ship, right? So they almost had the opportunity with the Law of Solace, but that's no longer there. So they have to have the opportunity. The second one is boarding that captured ship with Spartan 2s and obviously taking over that ship. The third one is pilot that ship to High Charity, and the fourth one is capturing a Prophet. None of those 4 phases call out, we need to sacrifice a planet, right? So the sacrificial part is not necessarily part of Red Flag, but to their eyes, again, like there's no other opportunity to kind of get access to a Covenant ship where they're gonna be, right? Like they need to be in a place where the Spartans are there ready. Like there's no, again, they've always been on the defense, so it's kind of like, okay, where are the Covenant going to strike, and then change that to how do we make the Covenant strike where we want them to be.
If we go
So
back to, sorry, you know, Robbie, go ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh no, it was just real quick. I'm just trying to remember correctly. From the Camp Breach campaign, was it just like was it just Noble's team's idea to just blow up the Long Night of Solace, or did they have to get clearance for somebody for that? I just can't remember the exact um details of that.
They did get clearance. If I remember correctly, it was called Operation Hypo. Or no, it wasn't hypodermic. They had to get clearance to take the slip space drive off of a ship, and then also get clearance to go take
Sabers.
um, the Saber fighters up to the ship. So it was all already, you know, cleared. But it's fair to say that normal generals or normal commanders trying to, in their minds, defend the planet, they didn't know the background workings of the even higher ups like Parangoski and Stanforth,
And
and they're
yeah,
essentially they need to draw them in. It's almost like this reversal, and they can't obviously tell their soldiers that you like, don't go blow up that vessel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
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 Otherwise it would
exactly.
yep.
be yep.
Yeah, and
So
they kind of call out here where um, Stanford was like, he wishes that Spec Ward wasn't so damn trigger happy in blowing up the Long Night of Celdus. Now, what we also have to remember is the characters we play on Reach outside of George are all Spartan 3s, right? But the red flag is specifically calling out a group of Spartan 2s. And Spartan 2s and Halsey and, the collective who need to be in the know of prepping for red flag were already prepped, right? By the time this happened, they were already prepped. And it's kind of just like was a, bad. And again, like, I don't think Stanford for anyone knew that the Long Night Cellus was going to come to New Alexandria and do its thing. It's still that idea of like the Covenant are just going to continue doing what the Covenant does, and we're just going to be having to sit around waiting for the opportunity. Um, so I think it's part of that to where again a lot of secretive classified information about this red flag operation just isn't known from the greater amount of people or the rest of the Spartans or
well,
other divisions.
going back to um Robbie's point, or it was a question or a point, I forget now, but like who was in on the know in this red flag operation? Clearly, in this entry, this number 5, they've already blown up the Long Night of Solace. So there's already been fighting on the surface of Reach, correct? But still, Halsey and the Spartan team are unaware of fighting that's going on. And Keyes himself is unaware of fighting going on. And it's in this message where they're talking about, whether or not they should tell Keyes. I'll quote it here. Again, this is from Stanforth to Parangoski. He goes, I feel like we're going to need to tell Keyes at some point. Otherwise, as soon as the Covenant show up, and I mean really show up, he'll scrub red flag and jump in with the guns blazing. He's not the type to avoid a fight. So we're already fighting on the surface, and we've blown up a Covenant supercarrier, and still the Spartans and Keyes are completely oblivious of what is happening.
Yeah,
To Oni's credit, that's how they want it to be, but
like this is them trying to make the book work with the game. They're trying to like gel everything together. And it's just like Oni and the very, very top brass are deliberately just selectively making sure these people have no idea what the fuck is going on Reach.
That is a good point because I was trying to check also between data drops of day drop 3 where we get the probability of them discovering Reach, that 87% within 5 months. That happened July 19th. And then Data Drop 5, where Stanford reaches back out to Margaret in terms of, hey, red flag is now a green. That happened on August 27th, where the first Covenant attack on the city of New Alexandria happens on August 18th. So it's been almost a week and a half
Even
before.
before even before that, if I remember from the game, our first contact at the Visegrad relay, that was in like July. So,
Um, yeah,
Yeah, it was
July
like the end of
24th.
July.
Yeah, winter contingency, right, is
right.
declared in July 24th. So yeah, they've, which is shortly after this probability came out, which is kind of funny. Like 5 days after the conversation of that probability, they found it, and or at least a scout group, right, comes to Reach. Um, Interesting.
It's just crazy how they just. I mean, that's a whole month. Like, there's no way you keep that from hidden from everybody, and that includes. I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself for the last data drop, but like those crew members were pretty oblivious to it too.
Right.
That's too long, is especially when you have you
Yeah,
could.
this,
Yeah,
this doesn't make a lot of
maybe we should
sense
jump
because,
into the six data.
yeah, let's do 6 and then we can come back. So data drop 6. A group of transmissions sent by crew members aboard the Pillar of Autumn. 2 crew members discuss thrust couplings, stating that their design will likely not work for a ship as cumbersome as the Autumn. A ODST complains that the Spartans on board are pillaging the armory. The soldier is itching for a fight with the Covenant and will not be sidelined for a red flag. A crew member does final checks on the weapon system on Autumn. He mentions seeing something like fireworks on the planet's surface below and suspects that there may be some sort of celebration. And then Ensign Lovely remarks that the ship's electromagnetic readings are coming back very heavy. He suspects that there must be traffic en route, and perhaps is a reason why they haven't departed as of yet. Never mind the fact that the outer relays are now offline. So I think this does help a bit in terms of no one on a Pillar of Autumn clearly knows what the hell is going on.
It's a coordinated
And
effort to keep them all blind.
It's fair to say that Keys knows, though, right? I mean, from the
oh yeah, I assume
last,
Keys. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead from the last.
he's keeping them oblivious. I'm saying from data or from data pad or data drop 5 when they were saying that like who should we be telling or whatever.
Mhm.
I think they're gonna tell Keys, right? So that was August 27th was that data drop 5. So let's just assume that they told Keys. He's been keeping everything a secret from his crew, clearly. Interesting.
And keep a secret.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Robbie, you're right. He can keep a secret. He's proved he can. Why he was picked.
Multiple times now.
So, is it safe to assume that the fireworks that this guy sees is New Alexandria being glassed?
Yeah, he mentions he had his condo or something was in New Alexandria or
Yeah,
something.
he's like, I'll have to ask
Yeah.
Candace if she saw anything when we get back. I got bad news
Sorry.
for him, man. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Candace
Oof.
is no more. She was probably clubbing at that one club with the hunters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. Because in this point, right? We're talking August 30th. Let me look at another timeline. August 30th. What's the timestamp? 14 hours. Okay. So on August 30th, the UNSC Pillar of Autumn is in orbit around Reach, so they must have just launched. Prior to that, on August 29th was when Noble Team went to Sword Base to escort, a package, aka Cortana, and get Halsey to the Pillar of Autumn as well. So, yeah, up until that point, because it was like, how are they not noticing things like? Now, I should probably pull up a map to see how close um, Sword Base is to, especially the shipyard is to New Alexandria, um, to kind of see like, would they know anything going on? But before they launched the Pillar of Autumn, Noble Team was fighting off Covenant. So like that's kind of silly that folks are like, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah, that whole area was hot. You had to finish the mission by just shooting down a bunch of Covenant aircraft. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't add up.
Yeah, I was disappointed with the data drops here. It would, as far as I knew, it was supposed to tie up these two timelines, and either this is a messy implementation of that, or it just doesn't work together. Maybe a little bit of both, but um, yeah, I was expecting something a little more here.
Yeah, I think it's basically impossible to tie in these timelines without going insane first.
Yeah.
Complicated. And I think they basically, their solution was like, shit, let's just say that we purposely kept them in the dark, did everything possible to make sure they had no idea what the fuck was going on the other side of the planet.
I will say, I mean, the data drops were working for me, but it still doesn't explain. They were in orbit and then they had to come back down to retrieve Cortana. How do they explain that? If the
Well,
pillar of,
they
if the Pillar of Autumn's mission was to hang around the Spartans to hop onto a Covenant ship, why was Master Chief in cryo? You know,
Right.
those questions don't make sense.
Yeah, and I mean, and on top of that, I mean, they sent out Master Chief with James and all them to destroy the that ship with the coordinates to Earth. What was it called? Like
It was Gamma
the
Station. Oh, and they destroyed the circumference.
the circumference and all that, and then they go back to Reach. Like,
Right.
I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Um, Something I find interesting is that this basically explains why there's no in Halo Combat Evolved, there's no 45E shotguns because they all the Spartans took the M90s, so that's why on the Pillar of Autumn there's only M90s shotguns.
That's a fun little Easter
Yeah.
egg. Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have this timeline pulled up for the Fall Reach, which actually up on Halo Alpha actually, and it documents the dates and hours nicely, which I kind of like. Um, it's just interesting. Like it tells the timeline and it's in order, but there's no clear answers in terms of why Pillar Bottom was still again docked down on Reach. Like why were they not in space already? Um, and in all of these other kind of like open answers that we're saying it doesn't line up or it's fuzzy still in terms of like some of this communication back and forth of like how do people not know what the heck is going on, or even let's jump back to again July 24th, a month ahead. We already know Covenant has made contact on Reach. Are all these people working the Pillar of Autumn not in the loop at all about again Covenant fighting on Reach for a whole month,
Yeah, no, it doesn't add up.
especially when Oni sword base and stuff gets um, run over like 2 weeks ahead of time. Like all of that's very weird.
Yeah.
Unless they're like keeping them like deep underground for a whole month, like even at like a base, like I'd imagine like you'd hear some chatter from just other people in the military, and
Right.
word would get around at very least, even if you have no other way of communication. It's yeah, it's that's just real.
Even if you're on the other side of the planet, like if you're at a base or something, like everybody else at the base would be like, it'd be, they're fighting a battle on the other side of the planet. Like things wouldn't be running as normal, and you'd
Mhm.
think they would
Yeah.
realize that. So you got to like suspend your disbelief to make it all work out.
I, I'm in the camp that I believe I could do that and I can enjoy both sides here. It doesn't have to fit perfectly in my mind. Um, I thought it was interesting little ads here. Again, a little bit of context in the background. Um, regardless if it doesn't fit in perfectly. So
Yeah. Where where again was the Pillar of Autumn heading? I forget before they deviated to the Halo ring installment, or basically where the Forerunner um
I, I
course is
thought they were
open.
just doing it the random vector jump, and they had
Got it.
Cortana put it together, and then those um symbols that were popping up, like Chief like recognized.
well,
It's like, wait a minute.
even before that, as far as the book was concerned, they were hanging out in orbit around Reach while the battle was going on. And they're waiting for like a Covenant ship to get damaged so they can go in and attack it or commandeer it, right?
Hmm.
But then in the meantime, they got the news that the um that one ship, I said it earlier,
Long Night of Solace,
no, it breached Cole Protocol,
Circumference.
their
Oh,
circumference. So then the
yeah.
missions changed, in there, and they had to go that done. And then it was pretty much after that, after they wiped that clear of the data, they're like, "Well, this battle's over. We got to get out of here." Enter random slip space vector. That's not really random.
I guess that's another point to the craziness of that. Like if there was Covenant fighting for a full month before, and those people were just had that ship without, you know, just disconnected from everything. They should know what's going on. They should have been seeing a bunch of Covenant fleet come by and know, oh, maybe we should not disconnect it from
Right.
um the rest of our communications. Like that's another thing that's kind of doesn't add up since you mentioned it, Charlie.
Yep. Again, you just got to separate the two, and ex- I just enjoy, I guess, both sides here, regardless if they mesh.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Reach campaign. I thought that was a well written one. I just wish it was kind of more in tune with like the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just
Hmm.
yeah.
with like they wanted to really give the sacrifices of Noble Team like weight. So, that's why they had like they gave him Cortana and like, okay, you got to deliver Cortana, and that kind of just messes everything up.
Hmm.
I understand why they did it because it's like, you know, like I said, they want to give reason to why everybody's like sacrificing themselves and people are dying on Noble Team.
Yeah. Well, you said John was in cryo sleep on the Pillar of Autumn before they launch. Is that what you
That's
said?
That's technically correct.
in terms
Him
of
and what's her
reach.
name? Lisa, right?
Linda.
Linda. Close enough.
Why only is that coming from the Reach campaign or what what media
Yeah,
source?
I think you see them in the back of the Pillar of Autumn
Yeah.
in the Reach campaign.
Yeah, I remember that coming up. The only reason I bring it up is reading through the full timeline of Fall of Reach. Um, John, Linda, James form a blue team to destroy the circumference before they're coming to get it in the same day that the Pillar of Autumn launches into space.
Right.
So,
So they went and they
yeah.
destroy the circumference. If we're gonna go through both timelines
Yeah.
again, convoluted, they destroy the circumference, and then Keys is like, "We got to get out of here." But then he goes back down to Reach, pick up Cortana. Meantime, John takes a nice long cold snooze,
That's right.
and yeah, it's again.
That's right.
They go to,
Yeah.
and well, I mean, oh yeah, it just doesn't make sense because then Cortana's like, oh shit, it looks like Reach is under attack. We got to go back.
Cortana made some go back.
Because isn't Cortana
Oh gosh.
already on the boat? I mean, on the ship at this point when they go to
No, because
conference.
no, John gets Cortana. They go down the reach. That's right. They go down the reach to go get Halsey. That's when they find Halsey's little artifact thing. Halsey gives Cortana to John, saying Cortana picked John, and then they leave.
Yeah,
Where in Halo Reach, Noble Team goes and grabs Cortana, and then delivers it to the Pillar of Autumn.
Well, this
Yeah,
was
that
this was explained in the data drop here, data drop 5. There's the Cortana section, and it says, as indicated in the previous conversation, she's splitting Cortana into 2 separate programs in order to juggle the Visegrad findings with the operation. And she's assured me that the AI is fully functional, well within her capacity for this mission. So that's how they quickly threw that discrepancy out the window, I suppose, is they said that Halsey split Cortana into 2 sections. So one was with Halsey, the other one was aboard Pillar of Autumn, which is what we saw in the book.
okay. Yeah, I saw that and glossed over it. At first, I was like, "Wait, like when she do that?" Timelines. But um, that makes a little sense then
so
in
he
terms of
was
like,
going to do Operation Red Flag with like a gimped Cortana.
Yeah, half
n-
Cortana.
well, yeah. Which who we don't. I mean, what does splitting in half really mean, right? Like, is it a complete duplicate or is it like? Well, I guess I do call out here that it should be fully functional. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what they're
Also,
going
that's a
for, but
yeah.
it just kind of feels lazy to me.
Yeah.
Kind of lazy explanation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I appreciate them trying to patch timeline discrep discrepancies across the game and the books and stuff like that. This is kind of like where you get these kinds of issues when you have so much different medium or different media in different mediums from different artists or authors, right? Like it's all taking everyone's personal like interpretation of kind of what those timelines are and how they map.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, that's definitely tough to juggle all that together. So, I mean, they did the best they could.
Yeah.
Also, congrats, John, for doing 207 ground engagements. That's a shit ton of operations, in my opinion.
And that's the only ones we know about. My God, it's Jason Bourne. All
Uh,
right, James, you wanna proceed? We'll get it
Yeah,
wrapped up.
yeah, really quick. So just I'm looking at the stats that they give John in the data drop 6. So in armor, he's over 7 feet tall, almost 7'2".
Jesus.
Oh, I did look up how much his armor weighed, and that was ridiculous. It was 995 pounds.
Yeah, in
It's insane.
Under Armour, so just clothes and shit. So he's 7'2" and weighs 394 pounds, 395 pounds.
Wow.
Without his suit, and then with the suit, yeah, like you said, 450. Yeah, almost half a ton. This fucking guy just stomping around. That's crazy. All right, let's close this out, shall we? Well, those were great discussions. With the Reach material finally wrapped up, let's take a moment to discuss our favorite entries we've covered this season. Anyone want to go first?
I loved the book, The Fall of Reach. Just so much backstory about the Master Chief, his comrades, how they're basically like his family, like Kelly and Linda, Fred, and all them. So yeah, I just loved learning all about that stuff, the backstory of it all.
I would probably have to agree. I liked the book a lot too. I think the book of a lot of the media we went over, um, we had some great kind of like thoughts pop up in our mind, right? Like the idea of luck coming into play with all of this. Um, and again, a lot of the emotion and family kind of driven aspect of John and how that came into play comes through in the book. So I really like that too. I will add quickly that I did like as sub backstory slash context and everything, like Halsey's journal, I think was a nice touch to go through. And kind of seeing how her personality changes over time and this conflict. And I mean, I still think she's probably bipolar and manic, but whatever. Um, like that kind of personality traits come through while going over her journal. I like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on the book. Yeah, that was just. I think it was just so well written, and especially just learning that he had to write it in only a couple months before the release
Yeah.
of CE is just even more so impressive. I mean, it went in like a lot of detail on everything, and I thought just a great precursor
Oh yeah.
to Combat Evolved. And then I'll give a little shout out to that little short movie that we watched a little while back, mostly for the comic relief, except especially finding out my name is George.
My name's George. Get on your feet, Jorge.
Straight up like shocks him, right?
I I enjoyed the book a lot too. But I guess to go a little bit different from you guys is I guess I
Oh, it
was
has
most
to be different.
surprised, pleasantly surprised with Halsey's journal. Just
Hmm.
the amount of stuff that she covered, the illustrations that were in it, um,
Right.
little tidbits of lore, her backstory, getting a bigger idea of what drives her, bigger backstory on the insurrection that ultimately warranted the soldiers in the first place. Um, and it was written by Eric Nyland himself. So like I said, it was kind of like a full circle in that aspect where we started with his book and almost ended with you know, his journal. So I think I would go with the Halsey journal was my favorite aspect of the season.
Was it was good. It humanizes her, and then it also shows you how crazy she also is. But I also got to shout out the game Halo Reach. It's fucking sick. The music's
Of course.
awesome. The action's awesome. Um, Super awesome seeing, the fighting going on Reach and the missions and the characters were cool. So shout out to Halo Reach.
You're here. Great game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the game itself, I really enjoyed a lot too. All right, PvP time. Uh, with the discussion over, it's time to pick up the battle for this evening. With the results of last week's match, here are the current standings. Will is by far very ahead with 49 points. Robbie with 37. James, myself with 33. Charlie with 33. Tom with 32. And um, maybe if Jim wasn't doing a lot of Oni missions and actually practiced his gameplay skills, he would be higher up than just 16 points. But it is what it is. Will continues to prove his elite PvP capabilities, retaining his spot at top of the last king of the hill match we did, and top of the tournament leaderboard. Regardless of tonight's outcome, he will hold enough points to be crowned our season 1 PvP champion. So congrats, Will.
Congrats!
Awesome.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. I'm
And then,
glad to be the. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, drum roll here. As champion for the season 1 um, tournament, there is actually a prize. You will earn the official The Great Journey Season 1 painted logo artwork, so you can hang it up with pride. Um, so congrats to
Speech.
that.
Speech.
I'm just so honored to have won the first season of our tournament. I would love to say that it wasn't easy, but I don't like to lie. It was for real. It was a lot of fun playing with you guys. Um, and I look forward to season 2. But tonight we are going to be playing a 2v2 match on Pit in Halo 3.
There we
Cool.
go.
Yeah.
So we heard that. We're going to be playing Halo 3. It's going to be 2v2, which will make things very interesting. And I say that because tonight there is a second place that we have to crown, and the points tonight will be worth double. So,
Ooh.
which will be very interesting because current second place, Robbie with 37, myself and Charlie tied in third place with 34. It could tip the odds very much in terms of like uh which one of us three will take home that second place.
Cool. It's on.
Let's go.
Cool. 1 second.
All right, I got one to Reddit.
Go for
Why does no one like to go near elites?
Why?
They don't want to catch warts.
Bro. That's the one I said on the first episode.
Wait, I didn't. I don't remember that. I don't
I
remember
sort
that.
of vaguely remember that actually. Still a good one. Still a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, I thought of one the other day. This is gonna be hit or miss.
Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
Where does where does Captain Jacob put the metal objects that allow him access to his house?
So you're talking
On a
about.
keys loop.
Oh,
Oh,
oh man,
I mean, it's
that
better
was
than
that
anything I could ever come up with, so hats off to you.
on a keys chain.
So I don't know what comic this is coming from, but Master Chief actually does a joke with Admiral Hood, and he's like, "You're home now. You could finally make an officer of you." You'd have Admiral without much of an argument from anyone. That's from Admiral Hood. And John responds, "No offense, sir, but the Admiral doesn't have the same ring to it." As in terms of why he's only petty officer, Master Chief.
So that was a John
Anyway,
117 joke. Like
yeah, he said
he
that
said
to
it.
Hood
So he's got a
in
sense
that
of humor.
comic. Well, that's what Hood literally turns around and says, "Wait, was that a joke? I didn't think you had it in you."
Oh, it's fun.
Yay! And that's wrapping season 1 of The Great Journey.
The Great Journey.
The
Great
great
Hey,
journey.
I did pause, but I don't think that's what that works out. So we hope you enjoyed the discussion, had a few laughs, and maybe even learned something along the way. Stay tuned for upcoming next season, where we plan to backtrack from where we left off. So we'll cover material that took place in periphery of the Reach material. So coming up, we're looking at Contact Harvest, Silent Storm, Oblivion, and the Cold Protocol. As always, thank you for joining us this season, and we will see you back here for the next installment of The Great Journey.
Great journey.
Hey, it's Will, one of your hosts here on The Great Journey. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on most podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Thank you for your listenership, and we'll hope to see you on the next chapter of The Great Journey.
Think about this. We started this in May.
Oh my god.
It's now November.
Took us a
But
year to
we're
go 14 episodes.
14 episodes in, which is, it's not nothing. Be proud of that number.
I guess that's 6 months, right?
We've accomplished a lot, gentlemen.
I would say so.
It's been a long ride so far, and the ride's just beginning.